The best way I could explain to you the power of writing and journaling is to give you the example of math. Now, imagine trying to do a big math problem only in your head. It's almost impossible unless you're very good at math. And math gets to a certain complexity where it is impossible, where you need to write it down, where you need to see the equation in full. And living without writing, without journaling, is essentially trying to trying to live only doing mental math. The way that writing math down helps you complete math, writing life down helps you complete life. And to go through life trying to work it all out in your head is completely and utterly foolish. Seeing your thoughts outside your head is extremely profound. And whereas in math class, a problem that was was earlier impossible without a piece of paper, in 2 minutes you can have it solved. And it's the same way with life. It's the same way with writing and journaling. And now I say journaling, but I don't think journaling is as fruitful as it can be if all you do is write down what you did that day. Or I don't that's not how I write. That's not how I journal. And I guess I should divvy them up. I am talking about journaling here, but it's more as like I'm more journal like I'm writing. I'm talking about thoughts. I'm talking about things I'm dealing with. When I write, it's really only, or when I journal, it's really only the internal world that I'm exploring. I never really explored what went on in a day in the material world, who I met, what I did, but what I thought, what I worked through mentally, that I will put down. And when you're having problems, when you're feel down, going through a rough patch, anything of that nature, it's always amazes me how quickly it can all turn around with just 5 minutes of writing, or how you can just so easily calm yourself down, realize that what you're worrying about is trivial. You can work through problems so much easier when you just get out of your head and put them on paper. You can see that what you're complaining about is stupid. You can be reminded of times in the past where similar things happened and you overcame it using these techniques, or how it just is a matter of time and it will go away and you'll be okay again. But as I said, I think people really underestimate the power of journaling. And like I said, I don't think you should journal like, oh, today I did this, and then I met this person, and we talked about this. I don't think we should journal about trivial things. If you want to have a journal of that nature in service to remembering what you did on a certain date, sure, by all means, be my guest. But if you're really trying to improve in life, if you're really trying to work through hard problems, if you're really trying to grow, if you're really trying to become better, then I think journaling with your thoughts, working through things like that, expressing what's seeking expression in you, and just seeing where it leads, this is how we should journal. This is how we should write. I said in the beginning, I divvying up journaling and writing, but they really are the same thing. If you journal properly, that's essentially writing properly, in my opinion. Philosophy is essentially journaling. Marcus Aurelius's journal is one of the most popular works of philosophy ever. And like that is how we should journal. We should journal like Marcus journaled. Not, Marcus doesn't say, "Oh, I had to deal with so and so today in the court," or "we're fighting so and so today in the field." He never said stuff like that. He was completely immersed in the metaphysical world. He was wrestling internally, and that's what he put on the paper, and that's what we have to put on the paper. Because none of us are perfect. None of us have arrived. None of us have really figured out this life thing. So put it on paper. If there's a math problem that was so hard that you haven't been able to solve it yet, what are you doing trying to work through it in your head? That makes no sense. And you have to go bit by bit. And sometimes you're going to do things that you can't even understand how it's going to have any relation to the final solution. But it does. And often we need to entertain the things that are bugging us, that are inside of us yearning, even if they seem trivial, even if they seem like a waste of time, because often those are just bridges to the real matter. And then we can really dig into it. I think a lot of people will think, well, I have nothing to write about. Write about whatever is seeking expression in you. There's something, even if it's trivial, even if it's stupid, even if it's just talking about what you did today. Starting off there, I don't think is bad. Everyone has to start off somewhere, and all you can do is think about all I can write about is what I did today. That's a better place to start than nowhere. To build the habit, and then to realize that you have a space to express yourself, because sooner or later there will be a problem that comes that you can't solve in your head, and it'll be good if you have practice on paper, practice writing out the equations, practice going through the motions of what it looks like to work through an issue, to discover how you should now act in the future, so on and so forth. I think journaling is one of the greatest things I've ever done. And I started journaling like 2 years ago. And I guess I'll quickly show you how many journals I have. 1 second. I wasn't going to do this. So I'm not 100% ready. But like 2 years. 2 years, and I have all these journals. And very few of them talk about what I do. And I have more. Some of these are filled up. You can probably see that. I have one over there, those two up there. But this may be the most fruitful practice I've ever engaged in. And I think that can be obvious with how much that I've done, because obviously I wouldn't do it if I felt like it was a waste of time. I wouldn't do it if I didn't feel as if it was bearing fruit. And when I first started journaling, it was trivial things. Like this is my first journal, and I'll read like one of the first things I wrote. I'll tell you what it's about. I don't want to waste your time. I got this for Christmas, so I literally was just talking about Christmas and how I had another notebook but I'm just going to use this one instead. Said I love how it helps me clear my mind and slow my thoughts down. And also the idea that you can look back to a picture and you can say, oh, I started this one 12, 25, 23, the 2.5 years. And you can look back at a picture and be like, oh, yeah, that's what I was doing on 12, 25, 23. But I can also now look at what my mind was doing on 12, 25, 23. And to me, that's so much more beautiful because it's so much harder to remember. Without looking at this, I could have told you I was, at my buddy's. Um, that was later. But without that, I could have told you where I was on Christmas. I remember where I was on Christmas. But I couldn't have told you what I was thinking about. I couldn't have told you what I was contemplating, what I was reflecting, what felt like the world was collapsing on me, because I'm sure there's problems I was going through that I would now think are trivial, that I don't even think about. But at that moment in time, I thought the world might as well have been ending. And that's also why it's important to keep a journal. I don't really look back and read any of these, but I'm sure they're full of trivial complaints that I had that I don't even remember, that I now would think are so stupid. Now I'd laugh at. But in the moment, they took up so much of my energy. They took up so much of my mental well being. And that's another good thing because it gives you perspective. You realize that right now, what seems like it's begging for all of your attention, what seems like if it goes wrong, your world will be over, in 2 to 3 years, it'll mean nothing. And in 5, there's almost 100% chance you won't even remember it. It'll just be another thing that happened. And the weird thing about memories is we often romanticize them. So it might not is this could be like the worst thing that's ever happened to you, but in 5 years you're gonna be like, oh, that was actually pretty cool. That was actually pretty funny, or I grew a lot from that, or I'm glad that happened. And when you journal, when you look back, when you reflect, you understand that. And when you're in the moment, it's easier to detach, step back 5, 10 years and realize this is nothing. This is meaningless. And actually, I'll probably look back at this and be grateful for it. It'll probably be one of the best things that ever happened to me. Miyamoto Musashi says that we need to view things that are close as if they are far away, and far away things as if they are close. And I've always liked to do with the latter, death. Death is something that's, far away, but it's also so close. I've died, it's probably like 7 or 8 minutes since I started this. And, but at the same time, if I die of natural causes, more or less, it'll be a while from now. But I should view that as if it's close, because it is close, because I am dying every minute. And it changes your perspective. And I think you live better. And things that are close, like maybe a huge, like something that is troubling you very much, look at it 5, 10 years from now. Are you even going to remember it? Are you gonna care? Is it going to have any effect on who you are in 5 to 10 years? And that doesn't mean you don't need to handle it right now, but that can change your outlook on the whole situation, and not take it so serious, not let it overwhelm you so much. And these are just some of the reasons why I'm very, bullish on journaling and writing in general. As I said, I don't journal like a high school girl, and I don't think we should journal like that. We should journal about the complex thoughts that we have day in and day out, about the things that are seeking expression in us. And but also, if it's really, if something trivial is really seeking expression in you, write it down. If it's causing you a problem, then you should need to spend time on it. I write down trivial things all the time and work through them in a matter of minutes, where, yeah, maybe I could have worked through it in my head, but it would have maybe taken an hour, maybe longer, or maybe I just would have never dealt with it and it would have boiled up and then became this insurmountable force, and I would have done something stupid because I never dealt with it when it demanded my attention, when it should have been dealt with. So if you don't journal, I would recommend you do. And just start off in any way you can. There's the idea of building the habit. And I think in the self help world, it's good to just build the habit of journaling, because then you realize it's a place you can go to. Because when you're distraught, you often, and I still often do this when I'm distraught, like I don't remember to write, I don't remember to journal. I try to handle it all. And it's still such a habit for me. Like I write every day and I still forget that, oh, I should just journal about this. I should just write this down. I shouldn't try to deal with this in my head. So if you're not, and I write every day. So if you're a person who never writes, it's crazy for you to think that, oh, when that time comes, then I'll apply this lesson. I'll realize next time I'm super overwhelmed. I feel like the world's crashing on me and I can't even think. That's when I'll remember to, open up and start writing. It doesn't work like that. You need to have a habit already in place. And even then, you'll probably fail. And even then, it'll probably take you a week to actually write about what you're struggling with. And then you'll think, as I do all the time, like, how foolish of me. I need to remember that I have this outlet to use and I need to use it. But, what can you do? We're not perfect. We do need to strive for perfection. And I think journaling, I mean, imagine a mathematician who's never done math on paper. They could be the most talented, smartest, wisest, greatest mathematician ever, and they get blown out of the water by someone with a high school education.